I am the MSP channel chief over here at Artisan, and as many of you know, I'm a former MSP owner myself of about 10 years. So I'm pleasure to be here, and I built my whole cloud infrastructure on Artisan. So it's been a lot of fun coming here and helping to build the MSP channel team. So that's exciting. I have with me today Jason Penka, CEO of TechJunkies, based out of Kansas. What city are you in, Jason?
It's not really a city, more of a large town. Hays, Kansas, western part of the state.
Hays, Kansas.
Yeah.
Nice. At least they have computers there, because I don't think they probably didn't a few years ago. Based on Kansas.
Four. We have 4 computers here.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and you've sold all 4 of those guys desktops as a service, so that's pretty exciting. So what we're going to talk about today, Jason and myself, we're going to talk about a couple different things. Mostly how Jason is using Artisan desktops as a service and the platform that we have out here to continue to build his MSP. And Jason, why don't you just give us a little bit of a snapshot into what your MSP looks like from an employee standpoint, kind of when you started. And obviously, you and I have known each other for a little while because I was in Robin Robbins with you when I was an MSP. But just give us a little snapshot of your company and go with that.
Well, we started in 2007. I was working for an ISP at the time, and just started a one-man shop. I cashed in my retirement. I signed a lease. I borrowed $8,100 against a 4-wheeler that my brother owned. And then I went home and told my wife that I quit my job and starting a company. It's worked out pretty well for us, so she's forgiven me. But from that one-man shop, we started doing retail. But then I always knew I wanted to do something managed services. But I'm not a super technical guy. I understand it. I can tell it. I can put it together. But I'm not that dive-in tech. And so we started to grow the company. I started to realize, being in Western Kansas, we need to expand in other markets. And so we have an office 90 miles west of us. I have an office 90 miles to the east of us, and we're starting to staff that. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5, 6 full-time employees, bookkeeper, and a couple of contract guys that help us with our Apple side, and then myself handling sales and marketing. So a few years ago, we got into Robin Robbins, and that's where I met Chris. That really started changing a lot what we were doing with the company. Started adding a lot more of the managed services side and positioning and packaging that product. From that, cloud was really an obvious move for us to start offering that. But again, I'm not super technical, so I didn't understand it. And a few years back, Chris had helped me do some cloud stuff with Artisan, and then when he came back around and we started talking about it, and the desktop as a service came around, and the IaaS, it just clicked with me. Started talking to a few clients, and now we're selling cloud. Went from it's probably 30 days from nothing cloud to apps, Office 365, stuff like that. But now we're offering, we can migrate your entire infrastructure up to our cloud servers, and we did that in 30 days. So
that's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome, and I really and it was cool for me to be able to talk to you and be able to bring you in, and I was excited to bring you on this webinar because I think you are a representation of a lot of MSPs and smaller shops. And, up until recently, you had 3 or 4 guys, right?
Yeah.
How many do you have right now?
6 full-time guys. Yeah.
Yes, you got 6 full-time people. So, and you're also in Hays, Kansas, which, so it takes away from the mentality that you have to be this massive cloud service provider to sell any type of infrastructure as a service. And you do not, or desktops as a service, workspace as a service, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to be this massive CSP, cloud service provider, to do this stuff. You can do it as a small MSP in remote parts of the United States. And it's nice for me to be able to have you come on and tell your story a little bit, because I want every MSP that's out there on this call and listening on demand to just think that you can do it. And I know you and I, Jason, have been working on your platform and working on your solution and your offering for probably, 3 months now, overall? And
January.
It's really, exactly. Yeah, so 3-4 months now, and it's really started to mature, and you're really starting to see possibilities. So I want to go into a little bit today what we're building in your platform, what all that is, and then I want to let any of the people that are out there attending make sure that you submit questions. If you have any questions, pound them at me. And Zach, my trusty associate, who's on the other side, I'm actually working from my home office today. Zach's actually sitting in my physical office, and Jason's in Hays, Kansas. So pound some questions at Zach, and he'll get them over to me, and then we can answer them as we go. So Jason, I want to keep moving along here and talk a little bit about, and I want you to kind of go through some of this stuff. We've been working on this slide deck for a little while. Go through a little bit of what your ideal cloud customer is, whether it's Workspace-as-a-Service, your WaaS, whether it's your desktop only as a service, your DaaS, or whether it's even just infrastructure as a service, and how you're defining that kind of based on the slide that I have on here.
Yeah, we put it there at the top, small offices, 2 to 5 employees, and a lot of the reason I add that's not a dream client of mine, but we have a lot of them, and there's a lot of small MSPs that have a lot of them, or they're turning that away. Well, the thing is with the DaaS, the Workstation as a Service, you can start closing some of these deals and adding to recurring revenue that is helping you pay then for your cloud infrastructure. We were talking to offices that it was one guy had a couple of restaurants, threw him $100 a month. Find out, it was real simple. He's ready to go on it. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like a mutual fund, and it really starts adding up. Now, the difference between that with cloud and doing a traditional managed model is you don't have to spend a lot of time on tickets or the tech side. So, yes, it's only $100 a month or $200 or $300, but you're spending very, 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 very little time on it. We start looking at medical offices, chiropractors. It's notorious that they're not doing a lot of the HIPAA stuff because they don't want to spend money on a server and a backup and a firewall. We ended up closing a 3-location chiropractic office at $200 a user just by sending. They were looking at spending money on a server and everything else. We just went in and pitched them cloud, just at $200 a user. They have 4. They're going to be adding 2 more. They actually bought another chiropractic office because they knew that we're only going to have 2 more people there, and it's only going to cost us another $400 a month. So, and it's going to come fully HIPAA compliant. Multi-location businesses, the high demand, high availability businesses. And what do I mean by that? Companies that they really, really rely on their IT. They cannot be down, very busy law offices. Because the thing is, if their power goes out in that section, or their internet goes out, or the workstation blows up, they can go to a coffee shop and log in and get access to their information. And you don't have to worry about, I can spin your server up within an hour. No, your entire infrastructure is accessible anywhere you can get on to the internet. Financial and accounting, right now, they're real heavy with employees. Well, then they're going to start dropping some of those off. Well, cloud is really flexible with that, where you can spin it up or spin it down. And it doesn't have to be this full infrastructure as a service. Even something that's coming with the Workspace-as-a-Service, so $100 a user for someone that's just doing bookkeeping, and maybe it's a single CPA that they have 4 or 5 people that are working from home. It's a way for them to keep control of all their data and their backup and everything. We've seen businesses with multiple servers. We started talking to them where they have servers at each location. We're like, well, we don't have to support all of those servers in that way. We can move them all up to the cloud. And yes, you can do it through virtualization, but then you have hardware costs. Then if that fails, you have to have really good backup, so you have costs in the backup. And then your main hardware fails, you have to wait for parts to come out. And then, now we have this new software we're going to launch, or this new product we want to add, and you have to add more hardware to it. Well, that goes away with cloud. It's just a couple clicks of the button, you can add more resources. So, it fits for a lot of businesses from small to large. So don't think that you have to get a 20-user, 30-user, 50-user law firm or medical office for cloud to make sense. With this solution, it's making sense for 1 to 2 people, 5 and 6, because we're closing them.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to make sure that we really focus on, I think you had a lot of really good points there. Number one that I like to hear you say is the reduced support costs, or this reduced support tickets and all that kind of scenario, because that's the same thing that I saw in my MSP. I think out of all of we saw about a 90% reduction in cloud services compared to regular traditional on-prem servers and workstations in terms of ticket load. Have you seen a similar thing? I know you mentioned something similar, but what kind of numbers are you seeing?
We're seeing them drop quite a bit. I mean, we're starting to migrate one client off that was looking at adding a server, and they had a few workstations. So now we're moving them over to a cloud server, and they're just going to remote in. As they're starting to get that set up, it's a lot easier for us to support. Very few on-site calls where before they were wanting us to go out there and take a look at something. It's just not needed. It's all cloud-based. So we've seen them reduce, and even some businesses that have started talking to us where we've done some break fix for them. Our biggest thing is, well, yeah, we're not going to have all these problems. We're going to get it all set it and forget it. And they were really excited about that, even on their end for the reduced tickets. So, yeah, I think of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that kind of also goes into the whole standardization piece. I found a lot of benefit in my MSP in terms of putting in standardization across the board, the same firewall at all clients, the same backup appliance at all on-prem clients, the same workstation model and equipment at all clients. And this really goes right along with that, because you could put in either a thin client or a smaller, cheaper computer. In fact, I have on my home, in my living room, I have one of those little Intel PCs on a stick, and it plugs directly into the HDMI port. You could literally run WaaS off of that kind of solution, and it makes it so it's almost a no-brainer for the end user client.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's keep moving on. We got a couple more slides to go through here. And just so everybody knows, we're probably going to try and keep this about 35 minutes or so for main discussion, and then we'll do Q&A as we move in here. So we'll get through that. So, Jason, let's talk a little bit about how you currently package your cloud solution. And, we're giving the attendees some real meat right here. They're actually seeing real packages with real money, and this is stuff that you pulled right out of your solution. And I really give you a lot of credit for actually sharing this, because some people are very afraid to share their type of mentality. You're a lot like me in terms of, I was like, hey, if you want to steal my stuff, go ahead. I'm going to sell it better than you anyway. That was my mentality. So I think you're right. So talk a little bit about your solutions here and what you're offering, and kind of wrap our head around that so we all understand.
Well, this is kind of a little bit of the quick and dirty, but still a good soup starter for anyone. I wanted to just kind of hit on some of the core pieces, but we have what we're referring to right now as Cloud Light, and that's basically the Workspace-as-a-Service. So what we're going to do is we're going to support the Workspace instance. So we'll make sure they get connected, they can print, so they can transfer files up. We're going to put an agent on there. I mean, it's a workstation. It just has to be in the cloud. So, we use LabTech and Mac Focus in different areas. So we'll put an agent on there. We'll put antivirus on there. We'll do patch management. We'll do remote support. I put in there 8x5. And in remote support, not help desk. They can send in a ticket and we'll support it remotely. That doesn't mean we have to provide 1 hour response time for the help desk. Again, it's a way to differentiate your packages. It's also a way for you to not have increased costs. And it's also a way to show a benefit between your base package and a more complete package. And then we are including Office 2016 standard. And just for, full transparency, I figure my cost somewhere around $40 a user on this. And so I run it at $100 a user. And I'm not sure where everyone else is pricing cloud, but a lot of industry standards, somewhere around 50% margin. So if you don't know that, write that down. So you're even getting a little bit better margin on that. Now, I'm not supporting the workstation. I'm not doing any on-site. I'm not doing any project. So if they have a problem with the workstation, it's going to be billable. If we need to come on-site, it's going to be billable. We don't provide a firewall. Now, if they have some issues and they need one, we may do a custom hog and add one on there. We're actually looking at that for a client. So, but I use this Cloud Light as kind of the entry level, and there's some that this is all they need. This is going to be perfect for them. But I also use an ascension model with my clients. So the next step we have is the complete cloud, $200 a user, but that's when we start adding in the 24/7 help desk. And I put Office 365 Business Premium, or E3, but it's basically hosted Exchange. we're providing on-site support, project support. I'm going to throw in a firewall and a switch because I don't want there to be an issue with their connectivity. And it's cheaper to just put a good firewall in and a good switch and not have to deal with it again. And I put dedicated server 2012 deployment. Those are going to be some of the people that that they need Active Directory, domain structure, things like that. So that's the platform they're going to have to purchase if they want that. We'll support their workstation. We're putting an agent on it, so we'll fully support it. Now we can go in and really scale that down or switch them out to a thin client or something, or like Chris said, use the little either the Intel NUC or the PC on a stick thing. But we'll support that. Now then we have our Complete Cloud Plus. I stole the Plus from Chris. That's what he called his Haas model, but that's where we're going in. And in our model, I put in here VoIP phones, but way we price our phones is a little different. But for $75 to $100 a user, we're going to include their hardware. Now we don't have to do that right away. So they have 15 workstations. I have a client now, 15 workstations. We're getting ready to close a cloud deal on the Cloud Lite with some bonuses. And I made them mention, well, if you move to Complete Cloud, which they're wanting to do, and when your workstations go out for $75 a workstation, I'll give you a workstation and 2 monitors or a laptop. And they love that. They thought that was great. Well, since it is kind of phasing in, I can pay for that out of my pocket. So it's not gonna hit me really hard, but it's gonna increase the stickiness and increase my MRR.
Yeah, I love that. I love that MRR piece. I love the sticky piece. Those of you that have been seeing some of our Channel Academy webinars, you know that I'm a big fan of sticky and some of the things that you're putting in that Cloud Plus, and I love it that you took it from me. That's awesome. We've talked about it a lot, but I think, having the workstation hardware in there, having your voice or unified communication system in there, that's a big deal. And when you talk about sticky, you couldn't be more sticky with that Complete Cloud Plus client. And by doing an assessment, you're actually offering a lot to them, especially when they see a lot of pain. And you're actually able to run this on older workstations too.
Oh yeah, we have a law client that we actually lost their first cloud deals before we were looking at some stuff with Artisan. They came back because they had a nightmare with their current provider, and so we're talking about Cloud Lite, Cloud Complete Plus, and their workstations are all out of warranty. And you always keep the workstations in warranty so you can get them replaced and everything. Well, they were a perfect candidate to tell them, look, for $275 per user, I'll start replacing your workstations. And they loved it. He's like, oh, well, that's great. And it's like, well, then we'll just replace parts or we'll keep one on spare. I don't care because all their stuff is up in the cloud. I'm not going to, worry about the nickels and dimes here and there. I'll get that taken care of. But then I'm going to make more money when they need to be replaced. And it can be replaced off of a $700 Dell, and throw a couple monitors in there. And then I'm making $75 and I'm fully supporting that hardware. And hardware doesn't break like it used to. And so
hard drives
it's a real big, right? You keep a few on hand, you keep a couple extra workstations unless something crashes, and in case something crashes, then you throw it in there. So
yeah, I agree with all that, because it really makes it so you can go in there with some cheaper solutions and not make the PC or even the on-prem server the focal point of the client or even the client relationship, and you can move almost everything to monthly. And what's also nice is you can lock down those PCs to be nothing. You can actually have no ability for them to do anything, including go to a web browser on those PCs on the prem site. Even if they're not connected to a server, you can do that. You can run scripts easily and lock them down. And then you can force them to do everything out of their cloud workspace, and it's a no-brainer. So I agree with that. Any other final thoughts on the packaging? And remember, anybody that's out there has any questions, make sure you write those down. We'll get them. Zach will get them over to us.
Well, and one thing I want to touch on is I put the VoIP phones in there, and I mentioned I sell ours a little different. We don't sell it through our company, and so I'm not sure how everyone positions their phone system, but having that as included in your proposal some way. I mean, we're adding it in there, and then when we close the deal, we're going and explaining how the billing is going to work and everything like that. But I love adding that in there. We actually have a partner that is on Channel Academy with us that closed a 3-user deal for $300 a user, and it
Yeah,
costs
$300
nothing
user.
on it.
You're right. Yep.
Yeah, phones and everything, and it was great, and it made me kind of build my solution around that. But I mean, don't think, and you can set your prices on where they need to be for you. But I'm telling you, I've closed deals at each of these price levels. Their deals have been closed at each of these price levels. So don't think it's too expensive. And typically what I'm seeing is some clouds a little bit more, but they're running around the same pricing.
Yeah, I think you can easily get, I would say, easily get 200 plus, even with a non-hardware extended station. On all mine, I averaged, meaning, across all my entire desktops as a service, workspace as a service infrastructure, I think I averaged about 175. But you can easily do it and include, I love that you guys are getting $300 a seat, because that's long-term guaranteed money. And what's even better about it is, as the numbers scale, Sean, who's a friend of ours as Jason mentioned on channel, is in Channel Academy with us. That's a 3-user deal. But as it scales, he was, what did he say? I think he said he's about 47% profitability. So almost 50% profitability on the full Haas model at a 3-user deal. And that's just, the more users you add, it just scales up.
Oh yeah. And those expenses are just going to be some base expenses. And 50% margin is, that's right where you want to be. So
yep, I agree
he wasn't sacrificing anything, even though it was a smaller client.
Yeah. The one thing that you do want to remember on those Haas deals, and for the voice phones, depending on which voice carrier you have or how you're doing voice, is you want to make sure that you just factor in what your return on investment is. And so I'm clear on these are all 36-month contracts, right? So your ROI, is that what you're selling, 36 months or more?
Yeah, we're doing 36 months, yeah.
Yep. So, and for valuation of your MSP, I would never go anything. Obviously you're going to have some clients that are going to try and get you down, but you can go less, just raise the price. But I try and use 36 months as a baseline for everything I do, get them on longer term contracts, get them sticky, make sure that recurring revenue's there. And with cloud, you don't have to do a lot. So that's great, but just make sure you factor in the ROI for hardware. Because if you got a voice phone that you got to pay for potentially, depending on who you're working with. And then you also have to have the hardware that you're providing, PC or base PC or Nuke or whatever you're doing, and allocate it down. So, okay. All right, we got questions rolling in, so that's great to see. So when you and I started, and I think, again, this was about 3.5 months ago, we had a lot of discussions of, Chris, how the hell am I going to figure out which clients to go? I don't know. I don't have anybody to go to. And one of the things that we did was we used kind of a traditional Robbins method, which was you're identifying your low-hanging fruit to go attack first, and whatever you're doing. So let's just walk me through that a little bit. Kind of, obviously I was there with you, but walk everybody through that so they can kind of see exactly what you're doing.
Well, we went to our current clients. We looked at clients that had multiple locations, had multiple servers, that were getting close to maybe a hardware refresh. You're always kind of looking at the hardware refresh, but we looked at it from a different standpoint, where maybe we're contacting them 2 or 3 months out. We have some that they're a year out, and we're starting to plant that bug in their head. We looked at our smaller medical offices that were needing the HIPAA compliancy, when we realized, wow, we can come in without telling them they got to buy a server, and we can support it easy, and we can start, closing some of those deals that we were having to leave, that were low-hanging fruit. They were looking for that support, and we were able to do that. We've had break-fix clients that we still have through our retail model. We've started having a conversation with them about cloud, about $100 a user. It really was resonating with them. You mean for $100 a month, I can have all my stuff there. I can use it from any computer. I can use it from an iPad. All my backups taken care of. Yeah, that's great. And so clients that were never looking at that managed model are starting to look at it. We have a few. Backup is very important. Of course, it's important for everybody, but we had one. It was the legal client where their cloud provider lost half of their files. And if you've ever worked with a law firm, that can be devastating. So their big conversation was, the reliable backup. I said, well, what's great is it's all rolled in. We can send it to another data center, we have big data centers these are at. This isn't my basement or anything like that, or in a closet. And it's live backup. So instead of, okay, your office is down, it's hit by a tornado, it burns down. Instead of, okay, we can get your server up, we can access your server in the cloud, and then start getting workstations. And they can just go get stuff from Walmart and get access to it. So, that really, really need that reliable backup. And then small offices looking for the enterprise support and remote workers, real estate agencies. I mean, a lot of them now, they want to have that real, prestige, kind of the look and feel about everything. The offices are brand new and stuff. Well, they're doing that with technology as well. We can do that with a Workspace-as-a-Service where they can have all their contracts on an iPad, and we can make it really easy for them to support that. And they're always adding and replacing and moving up and down with realtors and agents and things like that. Their agents aren't always in the office. They don't always have office space for their agents. Perfect solution for them. I started talking to realtors that I know, just kind of reaching out, people walking into our office and just out and about having conversations with people. Oh yeah, we're doing this cloud thing. It's really exciting. Because you always get the question, how's business? Oh, yeah, unbelievable. We got this new cloud solution. And you just kind of talk about it a little bit. I started doing some of that, and I was really catching all this low-hanging fruit. And we've closed, I think, 2,500 or 2,600 in cloud, and I think we have another 2,600 to 3,600 that's working that will close in the next month or so, just off of just simple conversations and people coming in. So it is that Robin's kind of identifying your target, but then also kind of going through your list of, what products do I offer? Does every one of my clients know that I offer these products? Well, that's what cloud is, just another product.
Yeah, and I think having some type of a technology business review or a quarterly business review is a really important thing to do. The larger the client, the more often you do them. I did with my bigger clients. I did a lot of more monthly. It just depended on their needs. Whether even if it's a 30-minute phone call, keeping them top of mind of your new solutions and making sure that they know that no matter what their need, all this is just a math problem, and you're going to be the guy that solves it for them.
Exactly. Right? I was just going to bring that up. The TBRs, QBRs, and you've got to be doing those at least every quarter. At least every quarter. Yep, exactly. I mean, that should be a minimum. And I like that larger clients, you should be doing it more. And it doesn't take long. And some of them, I know they're busy, but a lot of times it's just calling the office and having a quick conversation. Hey, we're doing this, or I think it's good for you. Let's talk about it when you're ready. Great. And having an agenda and a plan. Exactly. Having a plan for those things is really, really important. I saw our client retention skyrocket when we did things involving customer care and quality of service. And I'm not talking about voice quality of service, tech guys. That's not what I mean. It's quality of service from a standpoint of making sure that your team is doing what they're supposed to be doing and you're advising your customer properly. Position yourself as the expert. You are the man to your client. You have to tell them what they should be doing and where they're best fit. I mean, you don't go to the dentist and say, dentist, here's how I want you to fill my tooth. They sit you down and say, here's what we're going to do and here's the plan, period. That's what you need to be, that trust. And I hate that term trusted advisor, but you really need to be, you have to assume the role and then you have to actually act on the role. That's very critical. Yeah. Yes. Agreed.
All right. Well, let's keep moving on here. More questions are rolling in, so that's great to see. So we talked about kind of the package. We talked about how to find that low-hanging fruit. Now it's actually how to go in and position that cloud, whether it's IaaS, DaaS, or WaaS, how you can position that to your existing clients or new, and that's, cool suspects to warm prospects. How are you positioning that? Talk on that for me a little bit, Jason.
Well, it's about adding the value in there. And, if you've been looking at a lot of cloud, you would see the CapEx versus OpEx. And a lot of that can be a mindset for the client. When we go in and say, look, we're going to replace your IT budget and we're going to become your IT person, and we're going in with $2,000 and they're not spending that right now, it makes it hard to understand, well, yeah, you would spend $30,000 on a project versus $2,000 a month. But when you start adding in the added value of now we're taking care of your licensing, we're taking care of your email, we have your infrastructure all off site, we're reducing your hardware costs. Then you're going in with $4,000 a month, and that OpEx looks a lot better versus the CapEx. So, some of it's a mindset that you got to make sure you're adding the value in there. And it's truly IT as a service. I mean, we throw that around a lot as, oh, we can be your outsourced IT department. But not only are we can bring the hardware, but we're bringing infrastructure that they're typically not going to have that kind of access to, and we can manage everything, and it can scale up and down with their business. But others, we talked about downtime before. I talked to them about downtime. Look, if your hardware server fails, yeah, I can have you up and running on a replicate within 30 minutes to an hour. That's not a problem. But this is, if your computer dies, you go log into another computer. It's just a
or your iPad, or you can do it on your phone.
There's all the, exactly. Your internet. Yeah, your internet goes down. Okay, well then just get your phone hotspot. Go to the coffee.
Yeah, and I have an iPad with an LTE connection on it, so I can run my stuff from anywhere. I mean, and
perfect.
It's unreal the amount of stuff that you can actually provide them with. And you said a couple things in there which are really, really critical. I think one of them is make sure that you're allocating all of those pieces that you're going in and saving them. As petty or dumb as they may seem to you, the key here is building your stack. Having, if you can have 10 to 15 to 20 things that you're providing for them, that there may not be any true hard cost to them, but there's something to be said for the cost of time. And if you're taking headaches away from them, you have to make sure that you add it to your stack, because it builds value and it builds cost effectiveness and really helps you sell your deal, especially into those people that are the cold suspects or the cool suspects. Warm prospects are pretty easy to get into. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, and I think I've got this from, to give proper credit, from Alex Rogers, you don't know what's the most important thing to them. So adding that into the stack, it may be, oh, they're hosting our email. That's always a nightmare. That's awesome. Sold. And that might be what gets them on board. Yeah. It may be backup. It may be antivirus. I mean, we don't know. So you've got to add it in there and show that value.
And then also make sure that you're doing proper qualifying questions. It's funny. I watched, I think it was Friday night, I watched Wolf of Wall Street for the first time. And, it may be a slightly inappropriate, well, it's quite an inappropriate movie, but from a sales standpoint, it's a hell of a show. And one of the things that the guy in there, I forget what his name was, Jordan or whatever his name is, he walks into this group at the very end and he says, sell me this pen. And they're all trying to describe the features. And the whole point is, in order to sell the pen to somebody, you have to develop a need. And
exactly.
So you guys got to remember that as you're building your solutions and as you're going and sitting down in front of someone, you have to develop some need, and they have to see that they have pain, because sometimes they're working in it every day. They have no idea. It's that whole frog in a boiling pot of water thing. If you throw a frog into a boiling pot of water, it's going to jump out. But if you stick that frog in a cold pot of water and gradually turn up the heat, he's going to eventually not be able to jump out and boil to death, because his legs are no longer functioning because of the heat, and he'll boil to death. So they don't understand that they're in a pot of boiling water, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, okay. I really like a lot of things you have there. That's really good. So we went through the first three things there. Now let's talk a little bit about overcoming objections, moving into, okay, you have your offering, you're working on your existing prospects, you know exactly what you're going to talk about, you're going to know exactly what you're going to build, but they're like, hey, I don't like cloud, it's dangerous, or I don't like cloud because it's too expensive, or I'm worried about internet speed. Talk a little bit about how you're overcoming objections with your small town Hays, Kansas internet users. There's nobody that sees it. I have Google Fiber here in Austin, and it couldn't be more amazing. I'm downloading on my cell phone over Wi-Fi at 300 meg, but that's probably not the case in Hays, Kansas. So if you're doing it, how are you overcoming those objections?
Well, and ours is spotty. I mean, so we have towns that have good speeds. We have towns that don't. But there's ways around it. One, you can use some 4G as a backup if your main line goes down. And you don't need a lot of speed if it's a smaller office. If it's a larger office, they're typically going to be somewhere where there is some decent internet, or they've had that problem before. The other is we've had cases where we've taken, we have a few providers where upload speed is always the issue. They'll do 1 meg upload. Well, we'll bond together 3 and give them a 3 meg upload. And really the hardware to do that is not very expensive and just something you can throw in. Now they're paying the additional monthly fee, but it's also going to those providers and working with them. But making the client, feel at ease that, hey, look, we're going to take care of you. Because if your internet's down now, how many more things are you already using that's in the cloud that you're not realizing that you can't do now that your internet's down? So, that's a problem you're gonna address whether you're using cloud or not. We also get the higher monthly support costs. Well, we use the ascension process. Well, hey, that starts you here at $100 a month, and then we'll start seeing where we're having some issues and migrate you over, and that's worked real well. Where's the data store? We talk about the data centers, and we're open about it. So look, we use a partner. We do it because we can be flexible. We have a data center in Austin. We have a secondary data center in Kansas City where everything is backed up to. So, we're transparent when it comes to that. The one we always get is, the internet goes down and you can't get access to it. Well, we've already talked about that. Use a hotspot on your phone, use a coffee shop, and so we see a little bit different, more issues because we are more spread out. That we have companies that have more satellite offices, so they may have one main office and they may have 5 satellite offices that are in the middle of nowhere. Well, they're not always staffed all the time, so that helps us a little bit. But it's working with local providers. And as far as the client side, you just tell them, look, we're going to go find a solution one way or another that's going to work for you. Because if you want to have computers there, you want to have access to all your information, you're going to have to do it one way or another. So we'll take that burden off of you, and we know the questions to ask, and we know the providers to work with. So if you're in an area that is dealing with that, go to the providers, and you have a good relationship with them. It's going to help you overcome those big objections for your client.
And one of the things that's definitely coming now is that remote teleworker sitting at home working on your PC. This type of an environment blows the doors off of having to deal with a dial-up Cisco VPN client or PPTP VPN client or any of that stuff, because they can run their entire infrastructure from anywhere and everything runs and everything goes. So a couple of really good factors there. Really like what you're saying. And one question that's come up with me is, how much data do I actually need in a mass office, meaning not data speed, but actually internet speed, do I actually need in my office? My usual recommendation that I found in my MSP was about 1 meg download per user that you want to have active. Does that sound feasible to you, Jason?
That's pretty much what we look at. It really doesn't take much. And some of those smaller clients, those are the ones you're seeing in where there's not as many internet options. So that's where we use some of the bonded connections. But we're doing that. And in some of the towns we do have some fiber, and we have some pretty good connectivity. But it really doesn't take much. You don't need Google Fiber to run cloud. You're going to need a lot more connectivity if you're trying to host everything internally and having your remote workers remote in. You're going to need a lot more internet connection then, and more redundancy because it's going to take everybody down, not just one site. So.
Yeah, I agree. So moving on again. So obviously we've established all the pieces that we built. We're looking at some warm prospects, maybe some cool suspects, and we know how to overcome some of those objections. Now, tell me a little bit about how you're upselling your managed service clients that are either on-prem, break-fix, or whatever. A couple things that we already talked about in terms of the QBRs and that, but talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we have touched on some of these, but some of the hardware refresh, we have a client that's a year out for most of their stuff. They've had their server 2 years. We've already started that conversation in the TBRs. If they're needing more offsite storage for data backup, in Kansas, medical needs to store their data for 10 years. That's like 10 years of records on there. That can add up pretty quick. Well, if you're starting to do that not only on your local server, but then You have a backup, device hardware, something through Datto or something like that. Well, if you could put all that into one piece, that's going to reduce those costs and make it a lot better solution for them. So, looking for some of those clients. Companies are really growing, opening up locations, adding more people, adding remote workers. That's a really good time because you're going to notice that. They're going to be calling you for new equipment or, hey, I got a new user to add. Or they're starting to see some turnover. You start telling them, hey, we can manage that a lot better through cloud. And it's just starting to plant those seeds that are going to start growing and help you close some more deals further down the road. And, also webinars, something just like this, and talking to your clients about cloud and answering questions. Because it's just like anything else, a few people are going to be ready to buy. And then you can start closing those deals and moving on to the next and educating clients on cloud. Cybersecurity is huge right now. I mean, just everywhere. Crypto locker, the Panama files, everything else. Use that as a reason to go and talk to your clients, send emails to them, send mailings to them. Hey, just want to let you know that we can help protect you against some of these things with some of the products we're offering. When can we sit down and talk to you? Pick up the phone. I mean, they're your clients. You have a relationship with them. And it may not be something they're going to close right away, but they also may know somebody. It's a good time to ask for referrals. So going to your current clients, they're your low-hanging fruit. And then some of the prospects, maybe some that you haven't closed in the past for whatever reason, or maybe weren't a fit, start revisiting those because they may be a fit now with your new product offering. Because even though they're small, or maybe they were looking at cloud, you couldn't provide it. Trust me, 30, 60 days, you're going to be able to spin up cloud. It's not going to be a big deal to start having those conversations.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So one thing I also noticed that you didn't have on there that I did a lot of, I did do webinars, and I was kind of known in the Robin Robbins community as the webinar guy. But I also did a lot of actual seminars, in-person training sessions that were geared. All it is a 1.5 to 2 hour giant sales meeting is what it is. But you need to educate your clients or specifically your prospects on that. And if you are not doing cybersecurity seminars and webinars right now, you are missing out on such a huge opportunity.
Right now. Yeah.
They are so hot. You have to do that stuff because end users are finally getting to the point, specifically the decision makers at these end user clients. They're finally getting to the point where they understand what the hell they're doing in terms of technology and phones. And, it's finally getting to the point where they're educated enough by the general media that they understand what's going on and they can say, crypto locker's a real threat. My iPhone potentially is now getting hacked. My Android phone's getting hacked, blah, 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 blah. Utilize the hell out of the news and the press and get yourself some webinars and seminars. And if you're not good at it, I don't care. You need to get up in front of a crowd and you need to speak and you need to become the trusted platform guy or the girl. You need to be that person in front of your clients and you need to speak your mind. Jason, you and I were talking a little bit about webinars coming on, prefacing this webinar, and you're sitting there telling me I got to do more of those. It's so valuable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And we have one planned right now. And you can get people paid for them. Banks, insurance companies. Go to your insurance agent or some local ones around there. Ask them if they sell a cyber policy. If they do, say, great, I'd like you to pay for a cybersecurity seminar that I'm going to do. Invite all of your clients on, invite my clients. You can sell a cybersecurity policy at the end of it, and I'm going to try to offer managed services. Now, what's great about cloud is no matter what they have, you can pay a flat monthly fee. We can take this problem off your plate. Trust me, businesses have money that it's easier for them to fit into cash flow than it is to just write a $30,000, $40,000 check. And some would rather pay up front than monthly. That's fine. This is what those aren't your clients. You want to get the ones that, hey, you know what, I can just add you to our monthly expenses and my IT is taken care of. Yes, it's safe, secure. You don't have to worry about all this gambit of stuff. We're going to get you as protected as you possibly can get by utilizing the cloud. So they really go hand in hand.
I agree with that. Yeah, there's a buddy of mine, Jason, I know you know him too, Charles Henson from Nashville Computer. He is getting paid to do cybersecurity seminars. He gets paid to be a professional speaker now. So not only is he an IT managed service provider owner, but he's basically set out on a path. And Charles and I were doing this together. I think he's about 2.5, 3 years ago. He set out on a path that I am going to become a managed security expert, and I'm going to do talks and speeches on this. And he is paid $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 to $5,000 for people to stand there and watch him basically stand up in front of them and educate them. But he's selling. That's what he's doing. He's selling his brand and he's selling himself. And it's so valuable. So I don't want to beat that horse to death, but I want to make it discussed. And if you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to me. Jason's also available. So we're kind of coming to the end here. We're about 3:45. I want to make sure 3:45 Central Time at least. So we're about quarter to the hour. I do have a couple questions that I want to get hammered out. Some of these I think we kind of already covered. First question is from Britt. What are your profit margins? I think we talked about that a little bit. Is there anything, Jason, that we need to cover further on that? Maybe, hopefully Britt's got her answer or his answer. I'm not sure if it's a guy or girl.
Yeah, the biggest thing I'm looking at is before I have any of my actual labor into it, I'm looking at about a 50% margin on cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you start throwing in HOS, you're going to increase that. On the complete cloud, it's actually more. Even on the private cloud, it's actually more. Now, you're going to have a front-end load on that, getting things set up and kind of working out a few of the kinks. But you're going to make it up on the back end. So when you're pricing that's where you want to look after your tools and everything else.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you're spot on there. Okay, next question is from Steven. Are you requiring 12-month contracts with this type of pricing? I think we answered that already. Minimum in my recommendation is 30. I mean, you can always offer more, but I'd say for that specific price model, I'd say a minimum of a 36-month contract. If you can get a 48, go 48. I actually had a 10-year contract at my MSP. So they'll do it. And I'll tell you what, if somebody wants to lock in the 10-year or even a 2 or 3 or 4 year cloud pricing, if they want to lock in your rate. If you want to lock in your rate for cloud on the race to the bottom, go nuts, right? Exactly. Anything that we covered on that, you think, or that we didn't cover there?
I don't think so. I mean, you could do a lower contract if they feel a little uncomfortable about it, but you need to get something in return. So if they're going to want a 12-month contract, then you need to tell them, okay, well then at the end of 12 months it's going to go up 10%. I mean, think about your rent.
Something like that.
You go sign I can go sign a 10-year lease and they'll lock it in. But if I want a 1-year lease, it's going up 6% every year. I mean, what's the difference? Well, because they're not guaranteed income. So, and you can tell that straight to your client, and that may help you sell that deal. You're $3,600 per contract per user. That's not bad on the low tier.
Yeah, exactly that. I totally agree with that. That's actually really, really affordable. And you can break what I often did at my MSP was I broke it down to the cost per hour. And I know you haven't done this, Jason, but it might be something that you want to do. I know you and I have talked about it. But I broke it down to the cost per hour for their entire IT infrastructure. Okay, your user costs, if there's 2,000, I forget, I think it's 172 or 176 work hours in a month.
Yeah, 173.
What's their, or whatever it is, what's your cost per hour? You can nail that down very cleanly, and if you include the hardware, that's what's great about the $300 plan, because you can really identify, here's your entire IT as a service. When you were talking about IT as a service, here's your entire cost for this person per hour, and you can equate that right against them, or per year for salary basis comparison, that kind of thing. So it's really, really, really valuable. So, okay, and then Stephen had one other question. What are the terms and way of time? I don't know exactly what that means. I'm a little confused on that. But Stephen, if you maybe want to throw that into Zach really quick, and we'll get some clarification on that. I apologize for hitting that at the end. What I am going to say coming out of this, while Stephen writes to Zach and I wait for the update, we are going to be following up with everybody that registered for today's webinar with an actual white paper that I believe Zach and our great digital marketing team over at Artisan Infrastructure wrote, 4 ways to add 80% margin with Workspace-as-a-Service, a new paradigm for MSPs. So we do have a white paper that's coming out to everybody that registered for today's webinar. And don't forget that this webinar will be uploaded on the Channel Academy website and YouTube site. We do have some other new stuff coming out with Facebook and some other stuff. I do want to talk a little bit real quick before I let Jason go, just on Channel Academy and some of the things that we're doing for existing MSP clients that are clients of Artisan. We are offering an every week peer group type scenario called Channel Academy. And as of right now, it is no charge, and it's a weekly meeting where we talk about marketing and sales only. So if anybody wants to do that, that is an existing Artisan client, you are welcome to be a part of that. Please send an email into sales@artisaninfrastructure.com, and Zach and I will get you added on that list. And we will also follow up on that white paper. There's going to be an option to talk about Artisan Desktops as a Service, Workspace-as-a-Service, and you can fill out the form and sign up for that for more information, and you can have a call with me as well. So, okay, got back to Zach. He said we answered it, so okay, perfect. I appreciate that, Stephen. And without further ado, Jason, I just want to say thanks for your time today. I think you did a really good job, and I know this is your first webinar that you've kind of done with a provider, so I think you did fantastic, and I appreciate your time. And congratulations.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, congratulations on your cloud launch. It's been a pleasure to see what you're doing, and I appreciate it.
So, it's been exciting.
Yeah, it's great. It's been really cool. So we do have a couple webinars coming up in the future here. Probably, I don't think we have anything hardcore set right now, but about 2 to 3 weeks from now, we will be hitting everybody else again, and we have a couple different topics. In terms of shows that Artisan will be at, we will be at the HTG in Dallas coming up in early May. I will be at ASCII in Milwaukee the end of April, and I will also be speaking and exhibiting with multiple of our team members at the Robin Robbins Boot Camp in Nashville. I think they're calling it Marketing Wars. So that's we'll be there as well.
Yeah.
So, okay. So again, Jason, appreciate your time. Everybody else, thanks for being here. This webinar was recorded and it will be on the Channel Academy website. So feel free to go to that and have a great day. Thanks again, Jason, and everybody have a great day and a good week.